A lightweight wheel on a road bike has a moment of inertia of 0.97. So even though it's lightweight, it does have some weight because they give us a moment of inertia. The mechanic checking the alignment of the wheel gives it, so I'm going to say moment of inertia wheel equals 0.097 kilograms meter squared. Okay. The mechanic is checking the alignment of the wheel, gives it a quick spin. It completes 5 rotations in 2.4 seconds. To bring the wheel to rest, the mechanic gently applies disc brakes, which squeeze pads against the metal. To bring the wheel to rest, he applies disc brakes, which squeeze the pads against the metal disc connected to the wheel. The pads touch 7.1 centimeters from the axle, and the wheel slows down and stops in 1.3 seconds. What is the magnitude of the disc? Okay, so my first thoughts here is I see distance, time, speed, and so I think kinematic equations. So I start by writing up my kinematic equation. A equals A, V equals AT plus V naught, X equals 1/2 AT squared plus V naught T plus X naught. And then I write up a fourth equation, which is really a combination of the second and third one, which is V final squared equals V initial squared plus 2A delta X. But we're not really interested here in linear. We want angular. And so we're going to look at the relationship between angular and linear. So X equals R theta, V equals R omega, and A equals R alpha. So, okay, that works well. Now we're going to take that and we're going to rewrite our kinematic equations using angular. So omega equals alpha t plus omega naught. Theta equals 1/2 alpha t squared plus omega naught t plus theta naught. And then omega final squared equals omega initial squared plus 2 alpha delta theta. And you might be like, wow, this is a lot of effort to rewrite these. Seems like a poor use of time. It might be, depending on how stressed you are for time. I usually like to, when you do it like a test, I like to write these out just once and then keep referring back to the first time I wrote them. But you're right, it does take a bit of time. All right, so now draw a picture. So we got a wheel that's spinning, and they give us a distance and time. So 5 rotations per 2.4 seconds, which is going to be a speed. Bring the wheel to rest. He applies. So they don't tell us how big the wheel is, but I don't think it matters. And so there's going to be a force applied on the opposite direction. So the wheel is spinning. I'm going to say in this case the wheel is spinning counterclockwise. And there's going to be a force applied. So this will be a center. Opposite direction is spinning, and that is going to be a force due to friction. And they give us this R right there. That R is 7.1 times 10 to the negative second meters. So I converted centimeters to meters. And the time, I'm going to call this T, equals 1.3 seconds. Yep, that's probably good enough. All right. So now, from here, I'm going to convert 5 rotations per 2.4 seconds into a... So this is speed. This tells us the speed. But we want it in something that's more useful, like radians per second. We could do meters per second, but that's linear. I think we're going to be using angular, so let's go for that. So I'm going to say this is the initial speed, omega naught. So 5, nope, I'm going to do it this way. So we have 5 rotations. So 1 rotation is 2 pi radians. I think that's all we need. So we have 10 pi radians. And I'll do radians in parentheses because radians aren't actually a unit, but I want to write radians up there just so I know that it still exists. So I'll do this in the calculator. On clear 10 times 3.1415. I know I probably could have done that one in my head. Divided by 2.4, I'm going to say 3.09 equals 3.09 radians per second. And I should put radians in parentheses. I didn't. That's okay. We'll get over it. All right, so I got that piece of data. And this force is going to cause a deceleration or a negative acceleration. So looking at our data here, this is how it gives us a time, and they give us a final speed. So the final speed, omega final, equals 0, because that's what it means by coming to rest. So I am going to use this equation right there. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to copy and paste it down here. And I'm going to say that omega, which is omega final, equals 0. Omega initial, we just found it. I think that's 13.09. So it's going to be 13.09 radians. That's what I get for trying to put in parentheses. T equals, I think they gave us, was it 1.3? 1.3, yep. 1.3. Alpha equals question mark. We don't know what that is. That's what we're trying to find. So I'm going to say that alpha equals omega final minus omega initial over t, which is going to be 13.09. No, it's going to be 0 minus 13.09 all over 1.3 because we're going to have a negative angular acceleration. So go to our calculator, divide that by 1.3. I know it's supposed to be negative. I'm fine with that. I'm going to do 10.07. So negative 10.07 radians per second. Okay. So now that we got the acceleration, we're going to use that to find the torque. So the idea is, if this is linear, we think of doing force equals ma, and from force equals ma, we deal with acceleration. So we're going to use, I'm going to say torque equals I alpha, which is the angular equivalent of F equals ma, which equals, let's see, how's that useful to us? Is that useful to us? I don't know. Oh, we also know that torque equals R cross F, which R cross F is equals R cross F. These are all supposed to be vectors, which is similar to R perpendicular F, or RF perpendicular, or RF sine of theta, where theta is the angle between R and F. In this case, it's going to be perpendicular because R is going to be this direction, F is going to be that direction, so the angle between the two vectors is 90 degrees, and a cross product is a measure of how perpendicular two vectors are. And since the vectors are perfectly perpendicular, torque is just radius times force. So I'm just going to say that this is, and I know I have vectors up here, and torque gives us a vector. I'm just going to, I know it's not exactly correct, but I'm going to say I alpha equals RF. I'm just going to drop the vector off of the alpha too. So that's what we're going to work with here, and that is what we're trying to find. So rewriting this part and that part, we get force, which in this case is going to be force due to friction. Ooh, that is a bright yellow. Is I alpha over R, which is, I think we can, I'm going to have to look up the 0.097 is moment of inertia. 0.097. I'm going to drop the negative from the acceleration because all that tells us is direction, and we really don't care about the direction. We know it's making it go slower. So 10.07. That's supposed to be 0. Yep, we got that. We're good. And the radius, they tell us, is 7.1 centimeters. So I'm going to say that's 0.071. Yeah, I'm good with that. Calculator? Calculator. So we got our 10.07 times 0.097 divided by 0.071, and we get an answer of 13.76. 13.76, and since it's a force, it's going to be newtons. So the force that the brakes are applying is, come up here, not as good contrast, 13.76 newtons. You don't actually have to circle it, it's enter in a computer. So, and they ask for the magnitude, so we don't have to worry about the sign, which is nice. So, hope that kind of helped explain that problem. This is kind of a combination of kinematics, where we wrote out our kinematic equations, and then from there, we use the idea that torque is moment of inertia times alpha, but torque is also radius times force. That's basically the relationship between torque and force, multiplied by the radius, and from there we solve. So not too bad, but a pretty good problem overall. Hope that helped. See you next time.